Listen, I have seen a lot of stupid things in my 17 years serving on the Galactic Defense Coalition. But I have witnessed Vrelian diplomats try to arm wrestle a black hole. I have watched Korthian warriors challenge supernovas to duels, but nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day humanity sent us their newest recruit. His name was Marcus Flynn, and he was, by every conceivable metric we possessed, completely and utterly unqualified. My name is Vector Hall, 3rd Commander of the Coalition battlecruiser Defiant Spear, and I have been stuck with the unfortunate responsibility of training fresh meat for the past 3 cycles. Most species send us their best. They're elite warriors. They're most decorated soldiers. They're tactical geniuses. Humanity sent us Marcus Flynn, a 22-year-old who had been, and I quote from his official file, recently employed at a fast food establishment and looking for better career opportunities. You cannot make this stuff up. The morning he arrived, I was standing in Base 7 with my co-instructor, a Threxian female named Kella Brine. She had 4 arms, 3 eyes, and absolutely 0 patience for incompetence. We made a good team. I handled the tactical assessments. She handled the physical ones. Together we had trained over 300 recruits. Our success rate was 97%. The 3% who failed? They usually ended up as maintenance workers or administrative clerks. Perfectly respectable positions, mind you, but not exactly frontline material. Tell me again why we are doing this, Kella asked, her middle eye swiveling toward me while her other 2 remained fixed on the docking bay entrance. I sighed, the universal sound of frustration that apparently transcended species. Political pressure. Earth wanted a representative in the coalition forces. The Council approved it. Earth has been part of the coalition for what, 6 months? 8 months. Kella's second right arm gestured wildly. 8 months, and they think they are ready to send soldiers? The Vrelians took 30 years before they even applied. Humans are ambitious. Humans are insane. I could not argue with that assessment. The transport shuttle descended with a hiss of hydraulics and stabilizing thrusters. The rear hatch opened with a mechanical groan, releasing a plume of recycled atmosphere into the bay. Standard procedure. Nothing unusual. Then Marcus Flynn stepped out, and I immediately understood why the universe had decided to test my patience specifically. He was tall for a human, maybe 6 feet or so, with messy brown hair that looked like it had never met a proper grooming device. He wore a standard-issue coalition jumpsuit that somehow managed to look both too big and too small at the same time. His eyes, a peculiar shade of green, darted around the bay with the nervous energy of someone who had absolutely no idea what he had gotten himself into. In his right hand, he carried a single duffel bag. In his left hand, he carried a foam cup with the words Galaxy Beans Coffee printed on the side. He was drinking coffee. At 7 in the morning ship time, after presumably traveling through 3 hyperspace jumps, while stepping onto a military battlecruiser for the first time. The audacity was almost impressive. "Are you Commander Hall?" he asked, walking toward us with a gait that suggested equal parts confidence and complete ignorance of military protocol. He did not salute. He did not stand at attention. He just walked up and asked a question like we were meeting at a social gathering. Kella made a sound that I can only describe as a growl mixed with a sigh mixed with a prayer to whatever gods the Threxians believed in. "I am 3rd Commander Vector Hall," I said, keeping my voice level. "This is Senior Instructor Kella Brine. You must be Recruit Flynn." "Marcus," he corrected, extending his hand. "Nobody really calls me Flynn except my mom when she is mad." I stared at his outstretched hand. In Vrelian culture, extending appendages towards someone you just met was considered either a sign of aggression or a mating ritual. Neither seemed appropriate here. "Humans shake hands," Kella whispered helpfully, though her tone suggested she found the practice barbaric. "It is their greeting custom." Right. The briefing documents had mentioned that. I reached out with my primary manipulator and grasped his hand. His grip was firm but not crushing. Warm. Very warm. Humans apparently maintained much higher body temperatures than most species. "Welcome aboard the Defiant Spear, Recruit Flynn," I said, releasing his hand. "I trust your journey was uneventful?" Oh man, it was wild. He took a sip of his coffee, somehow managing to maintain eye contact while doing so. The hyperspace jump made my stomach feel like it was doing backflips. And the food on the transport? Questionable at best. I am pretty sure I ate something that was still moving. Kella leaned toward me. "Is he always like this?" "I have known him for 30 seconds. That is 30 seconds too long." Marcus seemed oblivious to our side conversation. "So what is the plan? Boot camp, obstacle courses, weapons training? I gotta be honest, I have never actually fired a real gun before. Does that matter?" I felt something inside me break. Just a little bit. A tiny fracture in my professional composure. "You have never fired a weapon?" I repeated slowly, making sure I heard him correctly. "Nope. Well, I mean, I played a lot of video games." "Does that count?" Kella turned away, her shoulders shaking. I could not tell if she was laughing or crying. Possibly both. "Recruit Flynn," I began, choosing my words very carefully. "The Coalition does not typically accept soldiers with zero combat experience. Your application stated you had completed basic training on Earth." "Oh yeah, totally." He nodded enthusiastically. "I did a weekend workshop at the community center. We learned about teamwork and communication. Got a certificate and everything." A weekend workshop at a community center. This was humanity's contribution to the most advanced military force in the known galaxy. "I need a drink," Kella muttered. "It is 7 in the morning. I do not care." Marcus looked between us, his expression shifting from cheerful to slightly concerned. "Is there a problem? Did I do something wrong already? Because I know I forgot to salute earlier." "That is my bad. I watched some videos on the transport, but there were like 47 different types of salutes depending on species and rank and context, and honestly I just got overwhelmed." You know what? The kid was honest. I had to give him that. Most recruits would have tried to bluff their way through, pretend they knew what they were doing. But Marcus Flynn just admitted he was lost, overwhelmed, and completely out of his depth. There was something almost refreshing about that level of transparency. Almost. Almost. "Listen very carefully, Recruit Flynn," I said, my voice dropping into what Kella called my teaching tone. "You are now part of the Galactic Defense Coalition. This is not a game. This is not a simulation. Out there, beyond this ship, there are threats that would terrify most sentient beings. Pirates, rogue AI fleets, territorial disputes between hostile species. We are the line between civilization and chaos." "Okay, got it," Marcus said, nodding seriously. "Protect the innocent. Fight the bad guys. Save the galaxy." It is significantly more complicated than that. "But that is the basic idea, right?" I paused. "Well, yes, technically." "Cool. So when do we start?" Kella had composed herself enough to rejoin the conversation. "We start by showing you to your quarters. You will have exactly 1 hour to settle in. Then you will report to Training Hall 3 for your initial assessment." "Do you understand? Initial assessment?" Marcus looked genuinely curious. "What kind of assessment?" "The kind that determines whether you wash out in the first week or somehow manage to survive long enough to become minimally useful," Kella said flatly. "Wow. You guys do not sugarcoat things, huh?" "Sugarcoat?" I frowned at the unfamiliar idiom. "Never mind. Cultural thing." He hefted his duffel bag onto his shoulder. "Lead the way, Commander." The walk to the recruit quarters took approximately 8 minutes. During that time, Marcus asked no fewer than 27 questions, ranging from how fast does this ship go, to do you guys have a cafeteria, to what happens if someone gets spaced accidentally. Gail accounted. She kept a running tally on her personal data pad, just to confirm she was not hallucinating the sheer volume of inquiries. "Recruit Flynn," I said after his 28th question about whether the ship had recreational facilities, "do you ever stop talking?" "Not really, no," he admitted cheerfully. "My teachers used to say I had boundless energy. My friends said I had no filter. My manager at Galaxy Beans said I had a problem with authority. I prefer to think of it as being enthusiastically engaged with my surroundings." "How diplomatic," Kella said dryly. We reached his quarters, a standard single-occupancy room with a bunk, storage locker, personal terminal, and hygiene station. Nothing fancy, but functional. Most recruits spent minimal time here anyway. Marcus dropped his bag on the bunk and looked around with an expression I could only describe as impressed. "This is way nicer than my apartment back home. I shared a place with 3 other guys and we had maybe half this space. And the shower actually has hot water? Luxury. Your expectations are concerningly low," I observed. "My rent was 600 credits a month and I made $850 working 40 hours a week. Low expectations were kind of a survival mechanism." There was something sad about that statement, though Marcus delivered it with the same casual energy he applied to everything else. Kella caught my eye, and I saw the faintest flicker of sympathy in her primary gaze. Maybe, just maybe, this human was not entirely hopeless. 1 hour, I reminded him. Training Hall 3. Do not be late. Aye, aye, Commander. He attempted a salute that looked like he was swatting away an insect. I will be there. We left him to unpack. The moment we were far enough down the corridor that he could not hear us, Kella let out a long, whistling exhale. He is going to die, she said simply. Probably. Should we warn him? He signed the waiver. Did he read the waiver? I considered that. Almost certainly not. Ancestors preserve us. Training Hall 3 was the smallest of our 5 training facilities, usually reserved for preliminary assessments and basic skill evaluations. It featured an obstacle course, a shooting range, a hand-to-hand combat ring, and various testing stations for tactical analysis and problem-solving. When Marcus arrived exactly 59 minutes later, looking slightly less disheveled but still radiating that same chaotic energy, there were already 5 other recruits present. A Vrelian named Gorth, built like a tank and about as friendly. A Cilician duo called Pip and Pop, twins who communicated in rapid clicks that most universal translators struggled to process. A Horaxian female named Tessa, who had apparently served in her planet's defense force for 6 years. And a Korthian male named Voss, who looked like he could bench press a small shuttle. These were proper recruits, trained, experienced, ready. And then there was Marcus Flynn, former fast food employee, currently sipping his second coffee of the day. All right, listen up, Kella called out, her voice echoing through the training hall. All 6 recruits lined up, though I noticed Marcus took an extra few seconds to figure out where exactly he should stand. You are here because your respective governments believe you have what it takes to serve in the coalition. Over the next 6 weeks, we will test that belief. Some of you will succeed. Some of you will fail. This is not personal. This is practical. We need soldiers who can think under pressure, fight when necessary, and survive when the odds are against them. She paced in front of the line, her 4 arms clasped behind her back in what I recognized as her intimidation stance. Your first assessment begins now. You will each attempt the obstacle course. Your time will be recorded. Your form will be analyzed. Your capabilities will be measured. Questions? Gorth raised one massive hand. Are weapons permitted? No. This is a test of your natural athletic ability and problem-solving skills. Tessa spoke next, her voice carrying the clipped precision of military training. Is there a minimum passing time? Complete the course in under 5 minutes and you pass. Anything over 6 minutes is grounds for remediation. I saw Marcus raise his hand slowly, like a student in a classroom. Kella sighed but nodded at him. Yeah, hi, he said. Quick question. What exactly is in this obstacle course? Like, are we talking climbing walls? Rope swings? Laser grids? because I should probably mention I am not great with heights. Gorth snorted. Voss shook his head. Even the Cilician twins clicked something that sounded judgmental. You will find out when you run it, Kella said. Gorth, you are first. Take your position. The Vrelian moved to the starting line with the confidence of someone who had done this 1,000 times. When the buzzer sounded, he exploded forward, his powerful legs carrying him across the ground phase in seconds. He scaled the climbing wall like it was a minor inconvenience, swung across the gap using upper body strength that would put most species to shame, but navigated the balance beam without hesitation and cleared the final jump with time to spare. 3 minutes, 42 seconds. Adequate, Kella said, which from her was practically glowing praise. Tessa went next, demonstrating the kind of efficient, practiced movement that came from years of training. She was not as fast as Gorth, but her technique was flawless. 4 minutes, 18 seconds. Voss powered through with brute strength. 4 minutes, 51 seconds. Pip and Pop moved in perfect synchronization, which was apparently a Cilician specialty. 4 minutes, 9 seconds combined time, which Kella ruled as acceptable given their species biology. Then it was Marcus Flynn's turn. He stepped up to the starting line, rolling his shoulders and bouncing on his feet like a boxer preparing for a match. I noticed he had removed his jumpsuit jacket and was now wearing just a standard-issue shirt that showed off arms that were actually more muscular than I expected. Apparently all that fast food service involved lifting heavy objects. The buzzer sounded. Marcus sprinted forward and immediately tripped over his own feet, tumbling into a forward roll that he somehow converted into a standing position. It was not graceful. It was not pretty. But it was effective. He reached the climbing wall and stared up at it for a solid 3 seconds before attempting his ascent. His form was terrible. He grabbed handholds that made no sense. He used his legs when he should have used his arms. He nearly lost his grip twice, but he made it to the top. The rope swing section should have been straightforward. Grab rope, swing across gap, release, land safely. Marcus grabbed the rope, hesitated, seemed to reconsider his entire life, then jumped anyway. The swing carried him approximately 70% of the way across before he let go too early and dropped into the safety net below. Coalition regulations required all obstacle courses to have safety features. This was exactly why. He climbed out of the net, muttering something about physics being a liar, and continued to the balance beam. This was where I expected him to fail completely. The beam was narrow, elevated, and required excellent spatial awareness. Marcus stepped onto it, wobbled dramatically, windmilled his arms like he was trying to take flight, and somehow made it across without falling. I have no idea how. Kella was watching through her datapad and even she looked confused. The final section was a series of barriers that required jumping, sliding, and crawling. Marcus approached it with the same chaotic energy he brought to everything else. He jumped the first barrier, slid under the second, crashed into the third, crawled through the fourth, and Army crawled under the final one while making sounds that suggested he was questioning every decision that led him to this moment. He crossed the finish line and immediately collapsed onto the ground, breathing hard. The timer read 6 minutes, 53 seconds. He had failed, but he had finished. Kella walked over to where he lay sprawled on the training floor. Recruit Flynn. Yeah? He gasped, still trying to catch his breath. That was the worst performance I have ever witnessed. Cool, cool. Good to know. You failed by nearly a full minute. I figured. You tripped at the starting line. My shoelace was untied. You fell into the safety net. Better than falling all the way down? Kella stared at him for a long moment. Then, to my absolute shock, she extended one of her hands and pulled him to his feet. But you finished. That counts for something. Marcus grinned, despite still being winded and covered in sweat. Does this mean I get a participation trophy? No. You aren't worth asking. The rest of the day consisted of additional assessments. Weapons proficiency, where Marcus demonstrated that he had, in fact, never held a plasma rifle before, and his aim was abysmal. Tactical analysis, where he somehow stumbled into a correct answer through a combination of luck and what he called video game logic. Hand-to-hand combat, where Gorth knocked him flat in approximately 4 seconds. By the end of the first day, Marcus Flynn had failed 7 out of 9 assessments. But he showed up to every single one with the same enthusiasm and willingness to try. As the other recruits filed out of the training hall, exhausted and sore, Marcus lingered behind. I was reviewing the day's data on my personal terminal when he approached. "Commander Hall?" I looked up. "Yes, Recruit Flynn? I know I sucked today," he said bluntly. Like, really sucked. "But I want you to know I am going to work hard. I am going to get better. Because I did not come out here to fail. I came out here because I wanted to do something that mattered." There was no sarcasm in his voice, no humor. Just honesty. "Why did you really apply for coalition service?" I asked, genuinely curious. He was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "Because back on Earth I was serving burgers to people who did not even look at me. I was just another face behind a counter. Nobody important, nobody special. Just Marcus Flynn, minimum wage employee. And I thought, if I am going to spend my life working, I might as well work for something bigger than myself. Even if I am terrible at it, even if I fail, at least I tried to be part of something that matters." I looked at this human, this former fast food worker who had no business being on a military vessel, and I saw something I had not expected. Determination. "Get some rest, Recruit Flynn," I said. "Tomorrow will be even harder." He saluted, still getting it wrong, and walked toward the exit. Just before he left, he turned back. "Hey, Commander?" "Yes?" "Thanks for not giving up on me on day 1. "The day is not over yet," I replied, but there was no malice in my tone. He laughed and disappeared down the corridor. Kella appeared beside me, seemingly materializing from nowhere. "You like him?" "Gal. I do not like anyone." "You like him," she repeated. "You think he might actually make it." I considered lying. But Kella and I had worked together too long for that. He has something. I am not sure what. But there is potential there. Potential to get himself killed. That too. We stood in silence for a moment, watching the empty training hall. "How long do you think he lasts?" Kella asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. I give him 1. "Here to make it interesting?" She grinned, showing far too many teeth. 50 credits says he washes out before week 2. 50 credits says he makes it to week 4. We shook on it, in the human custom, because apparently Marcus Flynn's habits were already contagious. Neither of us knew that in exactly 11 days, this same human who could barely complete a basic obstacle course would end up saving all our lives during a pirate ambush. But that is a story for another time. For now, day 1 was complete, and Marcus Flynn, the rookie who called himself a work in progress, had survived his first test. Barely. Week 1 turned into week 2, and Marcus Flynn continued to defy every logical prediction I had made about his survival prospects. He was still terrible at most things. His weapon's accuracy hovered around 30%, which was generous considering half those hits were probably accidents. His hand-to-hand combat skills remained what Kella diplomatically called enthusiastically ineffective. His tactical test scores were passing, but just barely, and I suspected he was getting help from Tessa during study sessions. But the human kept showing up. Every morning at 0600 hours he was in the training hall before anyone else, practicing whatever skill he had failed the previous day. His coffee consumption had become legendary among the crew. The mess hall staff started making extra strong brews specifically for him, which he drank while reviewing tactical manuals on his datapad. What surprised me more than his persistence was how the other recruits responded to him. Orth, the massive Vrelian who initially dismissed Marcus as weak, started giving him pointers on proper stance during weapons training. Tessa began running extra drills with him after hours. Even Voss, who barely spoke to anyone, would occasionally demonstrate the correct form for various exercises while Marcus watched and took notes. Pip and Pop remained somewhat aloof, but that was typical Cilician behavior. They communicated primarily with each other anyway. On day 8, something interesting happened during combat training. Kella had organized sparring matches, pairing recruits of similar skill levels. Marcus was matched against a late addition to our group, a Horaxian male named Rexel who had transferred from another training unit. Rexel was experienced, disciplined, and frankly too advanced for our beginner class. But administrative errors happen, even in space. The match began predictably. Rexel moved with practiced efficiency, his strikes precise and controlled. Marcus dodged the first hit through what I can only describe as blind panic, stumbled backward, and nearly fell on his face. "Come on, human," Rexel taunted. "Show me what your species is capable of." Marcus regained his footing, breathing hard. "You know what? I am really tired of getting my butt kicked every single day." Then something changed. Instead of trying to match Rexel's technique, Marcus did something completely unexpected. He grabbed a training mat from the side of the ring and threw it at Rexel's face. While the Horaxian was distracted, Marcus rushed forward with zero grace but maximum commitment, tackling him around the midsection. They both went down hard. The other recruits watching gasped. Kella's 3 eyes went wide. I felt my own mandibles drop open in shock. Using environmental objects during hand-to-hand combat was not technically against the rules, but it was considered poor form, unsporting, crude. Marcus did not seem to care. He scrambled on top of Rexel, pinning him down with body weight rather than technique, and pressed his forearm against the Horaxian's throat in a submission hold that looked sloppy, but was surprisingly effective. "Tap out," Marcus said, his voice strained from effort. Rexel struggled for a moment, realized he was actually trapped, and tapped the mat twice in surrender. The training hall fell silent. Marcus rolled off, panting, and extended his hand to help Rexel up. To my surprise, the Horaxian took it, looking more impressed than angry. "That was dirty fighting," Rexel said. "Yeah, probably," Marcus admitted. "But I won." "You did." Kella approached the ring, her expression unreadable. Recruit Flynn. Here it comes, I thought. The reprimand for improper conduct. "That was the most creative problem-solving I have seen in combat training this cycle," she said instead. "Unconventional, unrefined, but effective. Well done." Marcus blinked. "Wait, seriously? I thought I was going to get yelled at." In a real combat situation, there are no rules about fighting fair. There is only survival. Kella looked at the other recruits. "Let this be a lesson. Technique matters, training matters, but adaptability and willingness to use every advantage, that matters more." Gorth slow clapped, which for a Vrelian was high praise. Tessa nodded approvingly. Even Voss grunted something that might have been respect. Marcus Flynn had just earned his first real victory. And only took him 8 days of constant failure to get there. Day 11 arrived with routine patrol drills scheduled for the afternoon. The Defiant Spear was currently stationed near the Outer Rim territories, a region known for sporadic pirate activity but generally considered low risk. Most of our time here involved monitoring trade routes and responding to distress calls from merchant vessels. Boring work but necessary. The recruits were supposed to observe bridge operations as part of their tactical education. They stood at the rear of the command center, watching as our crew performed their duties with practiced efficiency. Captain Thornex, a veteran Corthian with more combat experience than most of our crew combined, sat in the command chair reviewing supply reports. Everything was perfectly, mundanely normal. Until it was not. "Captain." Our sensor officer called out, her voice sharp with alarm, multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Grid coordinates 77 Mark IV. Thornex was on his feet instantly. "How many?" "6 ships. No, wait, 8. Configuration matches known pirate vessels. They are powering weapons. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos. Combat stations were manned in seconds. Shields came online with a hum that vibrated through the deck plates. Weapons systems began their charging sequences. I grabbed Marcus by the shoulder, pulling him and the other recruits toward the emergency stations along the wall. "Stay here. Do not touch anything. Do not get in the way." "What is happening?" Marcus asked, his eyes wide. "Pirates," Kella said grimly, positioning herself beside us. 8 against 1. Not ideal odds. Through the forward viewport, I could see the attacking ships. They were smaller than the Defiant Spear, but faster and more maneuverable. Pirate vessels typically relied on hit-and-run tactics, overwhelming larger ships through coordinated strikes. All hands battle stations. Captain Thornex's voice boomed through the ship-wide comm system. "This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." The first volley of plasma fire lit up space like angry stars. Our shields absorbed most of the impact, but I felt the ship shudder beneath our feet. Return fire lanced out from our weapons arrays, catching one pirate ship with a direct hit that sent it spiraling away, trailing atmosphere. 7 left. Left. "They are trying to flank us," the tactical officer shouted. "Our ships moving to port side, 3 to starboard." "Split our fire," Thornex ordered. "Do not let them get behind us." The battle continued for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Our crew was good, experienced, trained for exactly this kind of scenario. We destroyed 2 more pirate ships and damaged a third severely enough that it retreated. But the remaining 4 had managed to coordinate their attack perfectly. They hit us simultaneously from multiple angles, overwhelming our shield generators. Alarms blared as system after system reported damage. Shields at 20%. Someone called out, "Hull breach on deck 9. Weapons Array 2 is offline." Marcus stood frozen beside me, watching the chaos unfold. The other recruits looked terrified, which was the appropriate response. Gorth was gripping the railing so hard I thought he might bend it. Tessa had gone pale. Pip and Pop were clicking frantically at each other in their native language. "They are going for the engines," our sensor officer warned. "If they disable our main drive, we are sitting ducks." Captain Thornex slammed his fist on the armrest. "Reroute all available power to aft shields. Return fire on my mark." That was when Marcus spoke up. "Hey, Commander Hall?" I barely heard him over the din of battle. "Not now, Flynn." "No, seriously, I have an idea." "Unless your idea involves suddenly becoming an expert pilot or weapons officer, it can wait." "What if we use the debris?" I turned to look at him. "What?" He pointed at the tactical display where the wreckage of the 3 destroyed pirate ships floated in space. "Those destroyed ships. They are between us and the pirates, right? What if we used our tractor beam to throw the debris at them? Like, as improvised weapons?" Kella stared at him. "That is the stupidest thing I have ever heard." "Is it, though?" Marcus pressed on, his voice gaining confidence. "I mean, they are not expecting it. And debris does not show up as a weapons signature on their sensors. It would be like throwing a rock at someone's head when they are looking for a gun." I opened my mouth to dismiss the idea, then stopped. It was stupid. Completely, absurdly stupid. But it might actually work. "Captain," I called out, moving toward the command chair. "Recruit Flynn has a suggestion." Thornex looked at me like I had lost my mind. "This is not the time for training exercises, Commander." "Sir, just listen." I quickly explained Marcus's idea. With every word, I watched the captain's expression shift from disbelief to consideration to something that might have been desperate hope. "Our tractor beam is designed for cargo operations," Thornex said slowly. "Not combat." "But it can grab and throw large objects," I argued. "The debris field from those destroyed ships has pieces big enough to cause damage if they hit at sufficient velocity. It is unconventional. So is getting blown up by pirates." Another impact rocked the ship. Shields were down to 15%. We were running out of time and options. Captain Thornex made his decision. Helm, bring us about. Position us near the largest piece of debris. Tactical, prepare tractor beam for emergency deployment. He pointed at Marcus. You, human, get to the tractor control station. You suggested this insanity, you get to execute it. Marcus's face went white. Wait, me? I do not know how to operate a tractor beam. Let's figure it out. Thornex roared. Move! Marcus ran to the tractor control station, nearly tripping over his own feet in his haste. The officer manning the station quickly showed him the basic controls. I followed, watching over his shoulder as he studied the interface with intense concentration. Okay, Marcus muttered to himself. Grab debris. Aim at pirate ship. Throw really hard. How difficult can this be? Very difficult, the officer said. You need to calculate trajectory, velocity, and release timing, or you will miss completely. Great. Cool. No pressure. The Defiant spear maneuvered into position near a large section of destroyed hull plating, maybe 20 meters across and studded with jagged edges. Perfect ammunition for our improvised attack. Tractor beam locked on target. Marcus announced, his hands moving across the controls with surprising dexterity for someone who had never done this before. I have got it. Enemy ships closing. The sensor officer warned. They are lining up for another coordinated strike. Flynn, whatever you are going to do it now. Captain Thornex ordered. Marcus's finger hovered over the release control. I could see the calculations running through his head, trying to time it perfectly. The pirates were moving fast, approaching from our starboard side in formation. Come on, Marcus whispered, watching their trajectory. It's just a little closer. Flynn. Thornex shouted. Wait for it. We do not have time to wait. Wait for it. The lead pirate ship crossed into his projected impact zone. Marcus slammed the release control. The tractor beam flung the debris forward with all the force our generators could manage. The massive piece of hull plating tumbled through space like a deadly frisbee, spinning end over end. For 3 agonizing seconds, it looked like Marcus had miscalculated. The debris seemed to be passing harmlessly above the pirate formation. Then the lead ship adjusted its vector slightly, rising to get a better attack angle on our exposed flank. The debris caught it directly amidships. The impact was catastrophic. The hull plating, moving at incredible velocity and spinning like a saw blade, sheared through the pirate vessel's midsection. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as power systems overloaded. The ship broke apart, venting atmosphere and bodies into the void. The remaining 3 pirate ships broke formation immediately, scattering in different directions to avoid the same fate. They are retreating, someone shouted. All hostile contacts are withdrawing. The bridge erupted in cheers. Officers who moments ago had been calmly reporting their imminent destruction were now celebrating like they had just won the lottery. Captain Thornex stood from his command chair and walked over to where Marcus still sat at the tractor control station, looking slightly shell-shocked by what he had just done. Recruit Flynn, the captain said. Marcus looked up, his expression uncertain. Yes, sir? That was either the luckiest or most brilliant piece of tactical improvisation I have seen in 30 years of service. Possibly both. Does this mean I pass boot camp? The entire bridge laughed. Even Thornex cracked a smile which I had seen maybe twice in the 5 years I had served under him. You pass, he confirmed. Barely. But you pass. Marcus sagged in his seat with relief. Oh, thank God. I mean, thank various species-appropriate deities. I thought I was going to die out here. You almost did, Kella said, but there was pride in her voice. We all almost did. Worth approached and clapped Marcus on the shoulder with enough force to nearly knock him out of his chair. You fight with honor, human, even if your methods are strange. Thanks, big guy. I think that is a compliment. Tessa smiled, a rare expression for the usually serious Horaxian. You saved all our lives. That is more than passing a test. That is proving you belong here. Voss nodded silently, which from him was basically a declaration of eternal friendship. Even Pip and Pop clicked something that the translator rendered as acceptable performance for a mammal. High praise indeed. Later that evening, after the damage control teams had finished their repairs and the adrenaline had finally worn off, I found Marcus sitting alone in the observation deck. He was staring out at the stars, a cup of coffee in his hands, looking thoughtful. I sat down beside him, my joints creaking slightly in the lower gravity of the observation area. "You should be celebrating with the others," I said. "They are throwing what I believe humans call a party in your honor." "I know," Marcus said quietly. "I will head there in a bit. Just needed a moment to process everything." "You did well today, Recruit Flynn. Better than well. You potentially saved hundreds of lives." He was quiet for a moment, then laughed softly. "You know what the funny thing is? 2 weeks ago, I was flipping burgers and complaining about my shift schedule. Now I am in space, throwing debris at pirates like some kind of action hero. Life is weird." "Life in the Coalition is definitely weird," I agreed. "Commander?" Marcus turned to look at me. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Why did you give me a chance? I mean, I know Kella wanted me gone after day 1. Most of the crew thought I was a joke, but you kept pushing me to improve. Why?" I considered my answer carefully. "Because I saw something in you that most people miss. Potential is not always obvious. It does not always come wrapped in perfect technique or impressive credentials. Sometimes it shows up as a human with no combat experience who refuses to quit, even when logic says he should. That is surprisingly philosophical for a military commander. Do not tell anyone. I have a reputation to maintain." Marcus grinned and took a sip of his coffee. "Your secret is safe with me." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching stars streak past as the Defiant Spear continued its patrol route. The universe felt a little less vast and a little more welcoming. "So what happens now?" Marcus asked eventually. "I mean, I passed boot camp, right? Do I get assigned to a permanent position? That depends. You showed aptitude for unconventional problem-solving and quick thinking under pressure. Those skills could be valuable in tactical operations. Or you might end up in logistics. Or engineering. The Coalition will assess your strengths and place you where you are most needed. But I am not getting kicked out?" "No, Recruit Flynn. You are not getting kicked out." "Sweet." I stood to leave, my body reminding me that I had been awake for nearly 20 hours straight. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we begin your actual training now that you have proven you can survive the basics." "Wait, what? I thought that was the actual training." "That was orientation. The real work starts now." Marcus groaned. "You are joking, right? Please tell me you are joking." "I never joke about training, Recruit Flynn." I left him there, muttering about how space was somehow worse than working in fast food, which I took as a sign that he was adjusting nicely to Coalition life. 3 months later, Marcus Flynn officially graduated from the recruit program. He ranked somewhere in the middle of his class for most skills, but his tactical assessment scores were surprisingly high. Turns out that years of video games had actually given him an intuitive understanding of three-dimensional combat that translated well to real scenarios. He was assigned to the Defiant Spear as a junior tactical officer, much to his surprise and everyone else's amusement. Captain Thornex specifically requested him, citing his unique perspective and willingness to think outside established parameters. Kella paid me the 50 credits she owed from our bet. Marcus had not only survived past week 2, he had thrived. And humanity's first Coalition soldier was officially active duty. And I had the distinct feeling that Marcus Flynn was just getting started. The galaxy had no idea what it was in for. As for me, I gained a new appreciation for the unpredictable nature of humans. They were chaotic, unconventional, and absolutely refused to follow anyone's expectations. Which, I was beginning to realize, might be exactly what the Coalition needed. 6 years of training experience had taught me to spot potential in recruits. But Marcus Flynn taught me something more important. Sometimes the best soldiers are not the ones who fit the mold. Sometimes they are the ones who break it entirely and create something new from the pieces. And sometimes, just sometimes, the galaxy gets saved by a former fast food worker with terrible aim, questionable combat skills, and an annoying habit of always finding coffee when you need him most. That human called himself a rookie who was gaining experience as he went. I called him a survivor. The Coalition called him a soldier. History would eventually call him a hero, though that story involves a diplomatic crisis, an exploding moon, and enough coffee to fuel a small fleet. But that is definitely a tale for another time. For now, Marcus Flynn had earned his place among the stars, and against all odds, all logic, and all reasonable predictions, he had proven that sometimes the most unlikely candidates become exactly what the universe needs. Who would have thought? Certainly not me. But I was learning to never underestimate humans. They had a knack for defying expectations. And Marcus Flynn? He was just getting warmed up.